Guys, welcome to today's Thursday Nutrition Chats. I'm still trying to come up with like a funky name for it. I was thinking about calling it Nooch, like Nooch. Anyways, the last couple times, like I watched the video, I was like, "Oh no, you saw me drinking my coffee before, before I actually started the live." So, that being said, there's a couple things here. My house is lived in, so you're gonna see it's clean, but it's lived in. There's stuff like I have to vacuum, so the vacuum's out, and dogs on the couch means daily vacuuming. Anyways, what I'm trying to get at here is I am definitely making a concerted effort for us to have a little bit more frequency in these videos. Make sure that they become something that you look really forward to and something that I want to compound your education with, really, because it's a great resource. We took a hit with the whole Facebook deleting most of the library before it could all be migrated. So we have a whole bunch of topics to revisit and rediscuss from a 2025-2026 perspective that are all being migrated onto Vimeo and YouTube. So that being said, let's get into this. Today we're talking about nutrition for longevity, recovery, and performance. And we're going to discuss each of what those are. If you are here right now, make sure to hashtag I'm here. And if you are catching a replay, make sure to hashtag replay. I always try and see if it'll actually post here whenever I'm in these lives, but it never freaking works. So whatever, we're gonna go with it. So when it comes to nutrition, there's a lot of behind the scenes information that you guys typically don't get. And I'm just letting you guys all know that I'm live now. Anyways, the behind the scenes information is the why. Why do I ask you to do certain things? And I want to take more of an educational approach coming into this end of this year, into this new year, to really celebrate the whys and the educational side of things, because I think it's really going to benefit this particular group of clients because you guys are so interested. You're invested and you want to know more, which is so cool. And so here we are with today's Nooch, Nooch, I'm going to write it in the comments, Nooch for nutrition. That's actually a slang term for nutritional yeast. Nutritional yeast is commonly used in vegetarian meals to replace a cheesy flavor. For people who cannot have a lot of dairy, it's a great alternative, and it actually packs quite a lot of B vitamins and protein for a flaky powder. That being said, let's get into the nitty gritty. So, nutrition encompasses a little bit more than just what you put in your body. Nutrition encompasses big nutrients and little nutrients, aka the macros and the micros. Pardon me. Macronutrients are the things that we talk about most frequently: protein, carbs, and fats. Each have their home and their space in the world of getting us through the day-to-day. There's also the micronutrients, which is our vitamins and minerals that, some we absolutely need to live and some we cannot produce naturally. A great example of that would be B12, okay? So macronutrients, just to take a step back before I get into the nitty gritty, macronutrients have a lot behind them. But to simplify things, one second, Alexa, volume down. To simplify things, proteins are used for cellular synthesis and protein muscle synthesis, okay? They are used to help repair the body and build the body, okay? Carbs are a primary energy source. What does that mean? Well, we convert carbs into a form of sugar into the bloodstream, blood sugar or glucose, and that gets stored as something called glycogen in the body. It gets stored in the muscles, and that is why when people are very lean and they go for a refeed meal, suddenly their muscles look a little bit juicier and a little bit more jacked, if you will, a little bit more pumped. Why? Because now they have glycogen stores in the muscles and that holds a little bit of water. Third is our fats. This is our secret storage energy source. So they have the most amount of calories. So 1 gram of fats has 9 calories, okay? Comparative to carbs and protein, it's a 1 to 4. So per gram, they have 4 calories attached. Fats are primarily used as, of course, another form of energy. However, they are very important for hormone production. They're very important for helping regulate our endocrine system, and it is something we absolutely do need. So, as you all know, this is not my cup of tea to ever recommend people remove food groups for these exact reasons. Macronutrients are extremely important for ensuring that we have all the micronutrients filled out as well. And being that a lot of us are going through autoimmune diseases or tricky gut issues or menopause or perimenopause or PCOS or hypothyroidism, or maybe you're just an overtired mama, it doesn't matter. What matters is that we're all going through something, and this talk is going to benefit all of you. So let's get into the nitty gritty. When it comes to things like longevity, longevity is really the gold standard of a healthy, qualitative life, and our diet quality really does matter. In people that are older than 80 years old, a higher protein diet was actually significantly associated with a lower risk of mortality. In middle age, pre-frailty stages do occur, and a healthier diet mitigated the impact of frailty on our mortality. What do I mean by that? I mean that it helps us have better bone density, it helps us have better, posture, balance, and lowered risk of injuries and, illnesses that are associated with abundant food, okay? The key thing that we want to do when we talk about longevity is maintaining a high quality of life, and we can do so by following key dietary patterns, using whole fruits and vegetables, legumes such as beans, lentils, etc., whole grains, and lower processed foods. In one review, dietary patterns demonstrated greater adherence to diets that emphasized whole fruits and veggies, low-fat dairy, lean meats, legumes, and nuts, and they were inversely associated with mortality. That means that they helped avoid dying, basically, okay? So where we're going with all of this, sorry, my notes got a little bit messy here. There's like a couple really big golden nuggets that I want you to take away from this. Number one is that the diet quality will have the most impact, okay? Why does this matter? Late in life, those who eat a higher quality diet of whole foods, plants, and fewer processed items do tend to live longer. And an emphasis on that diet remains powerful from now until we pass. When I talked about diet quality, I mean how diet quality and frailty interact. I was trying to refer to a study. Like I said, my notes got a little mixed up. I was reading off my first draft. So regardless of frailty categories, meaning, osteo issues, musculoskeletal issues, immune issues, etc., a healthier diet was associated with a longer life expectancy and a lower mortality risk, okay? This matters because a lot of us worry about that kind of stuff later, okay? It doesn't matter if we're 30s, 40s, 50s, 20s, okay? We worry about this typically as we age. And improving our diet can actually remove some of that frailty and extend a healthy life expectancy, not just living like a vegetable longer, but actually having long qualitative lives. Our diet quality does influence disease-free life years too. So a specific study here from OUP Academic really did, how do I put this? The quote that I highlighted here is that a number of cardiometabolic diseases, so meaning stuff related to your heart, the number of cardiometabolic disease-free life years after the age of 50 was 23.9 for patients with the healthiest diet and only 21.4 years. So you're adding an extra 2.5 years of life. So what does that mean? It's a 2.5 year disease-free life addition just from eating a little bit better. And for anybody, this can be a huge motivation to have a better diet. As you guys know, I was recently diagnosed with some elevated cholesterols that really freaked me out. And this is a huge wake up call for me. Like, I'm 33, I'm not old, but I'm also not 20 anymore. And it was a great wake up call to really start focusing on cardiovascular health for myself and cleaning up certain things in my nutrition. And so, cardio being my number one nemesis, it is my weak point. You guys are the first to know, but I am challenging myself. There's no set race, but I'm challenging myself to kind of eat the frog, if you will, and run my own first 10K. And the goal is December 31st to say sayonara to 2025. So, why does this matter? Dietary patterns matter more than any single nutrient. So that's why I had the little chat at the beginning as to not demonize carbs or remove fats or sugar or whatever this is. No. Dietary patterns will matter more than any one nutrient that we've decided to decide is not good for us, okay? So it's not just eat more protein or take this supplement. A healthy, consistent pattern of eating, meaning whole foods, lots of plants, and minimal ultra-processed foods is key. Good news is that we can totally help you to incorporate all of these things and still have some fun on the side, because we're still gonna eat and, be great. So a few things that I want to kind of point out here is that I want to encourage you to have a mostly whole food diet. What does that mean? Keep it simple. Don't eat things out of packages all the time. What do I mean by that? Literally, if you can just buy the rice or the chicken or frozen vegetables or frozen fruits, things, yes, of course, they still come in packaging, but I'm saying things that are not like ready-made. There's a time for ready-made, but at the same time, as much as we can for whole foods, it's going to help you the longest. We want to emphasize plenty of vegetables, fruits, legumes, whole grains, nuts, and seeds. And we want to try, depending on budgetary constraints and what actually appeals to us, try to limit processed meats or refined grains and high sugar foods, okay? Limit it. That doesn't mean remove it. I just want to clarify that. We just have it as a treat, okay? I like to use simple plate rules too. So I really try and make sure like 2/3 of my plate is like a good amount of plants and whole grains, and 1/3 is a protein or fish. And what does that do? That allows me to have a pattern of high diet quality. Some people like to have eating windows. I'm not talking about intermittent fasting because it can be detrimental to women's hormones, but for example, trying to eat within 12 hours. So if you have your first meal at 8 a.m., try to have your last bite at 8 p.m. And that allows your body to have a metabolic reset each day. And this actually supports longevity pathways instead of eating around the clock. Now, there's also nothing wrong with eating around the clock, especially if you have conditions like diabetes, etc. You must have those foods. However, if you are looking to have a little bit lower oxidative stress and things like this, for those that don't have the medical need, that is something that you can look into. We want to emphasize color and variety. So what I love to do is I like to go into like the reduced produce racks, because especially if my Ontario crew, you go to Farm Boy, their reduced produce is wickedly nice and very cheap, and you can get like a huge bundle of organic apples, like 6 of them for $2. Anyways, I used to go there. This is my secret trick from when I was on a very strict budget as a student. I would go to the reduced produce rack and find weird foods that I didn't normally eat, and it would force me to learn how to cook them. And it made me become a better cook. It made me become a better overall coach, because I understand certain foods and how to use them. But also when I don't know, honestly, we have so many tools at our disposal. Throw in the ingredients into ChatGPT and ask it for a recipe that's high protein and like good macros. It can be that simple sometimes. Now, that being said, we want to stress synergy here. We want a diet that supports longevity, but also works with exercise, sleep, and stress. All of those need to be managed. So it's not just food. Keep that in mind. The whole lifestyle package comes together. And, remember that this is an investment into your future, right? You are probably juggling a career. You're probably juggling family life. And that family life comes with extracurricular activities. Maybe you have 2 jobs. Maybe you're studying something. Maybe you're being the support or grandparent or support network for in your community, okay? It's hard to juggle all of the hats that we have to wear in a day. And so we want to frame why we talk about this and why you should pay attention to it as a form of investing into your health. It's an investment of time, effort, and energy into, your health, your mobility, your energy, your function. And it's not just about weight loss, it's about higher quality of life. Okay? That is why I never focus on the scale. I want you to feel good before we start looking at any of that. Because typically, by focusing on all of the important stuff, it melts away anyway. 3 quotes that I want to leave you with here. Number 1 would be, real world survival benefits are linked to diet quality in older people. Okay. And the thing here I want to just specify is that the overall pattern is more important than the actual nutrients themselves. Does that make any sense? The next thing I want to talk about is recovery. What do I mean by recovery? Well, all of you are here, all of you train, all of you work out in some capacity. Maybe you've been taken out by an injury, maybe you're dealing with a flare-up of some autoimmune condition. Doesn't matter, we're here for you. It is still a form of recovery. So when we talk about nutrition in recovery, we're talking about nutrition for repair, rest, and regeneration. So in middle-aged and older adults, we face anabolic resistance. So what does that mean? We are resistant, kind of like insulin resistance. We're resistant to smaller amounts of protein. So we actually require higher protein per meal to stimulate cellular repair. A key review actually mentioned that it has been reported that the optimal dose of dietary protein in a meal that resulted in the best anabolic response, meaning the most cell repair response, was about 35 grams per meal. Okay, that is why I'm always yapping at you guys. Try to aim for 30 grams, 30 to 40 grams of protein. Why? Because especially as we hit our 50s and 60s, we don't get the same bang for our buck from the protein that we eat comparative to like teenagers, 20-year-olds. You might need slightly more to have a better distribution to achieve really good repair. Meals with more protein will also stimulate a bigger anabolic or repair response. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of, like, if you're watching like a lot of gym reels, the anabolic window. The anabolic window is basically a gym bro myth that's been debunked by science, that you had to get protein in right within 30 minutes of your workout or it didn't help or blah blah blah. It's not true. Eat within a couple hours, you're good. Anyways, one trial found that both feedings resulted in positive net balance with greater MOD than current studies find to anabolic resistance. So what does that mean? Basically, there's a physiological response in why middle-aged and older clients actually need to consciously prioritize protein and recover or better recovery nutrition. It's because your bodies don't respond quite as easily as they used to. Okay? Now, it's not just about total daily protein, it's about protein distribution. What do I mean? Ideally, in a meal, you're going to aim for about 30 to 40 grams of protein per serving. It seems reasonable that at least 2 protein intake episodes a day should contain about 30 grams of protein each. So basically, I don't want you to just have like minuscule amounts of protein at breakfast and lunch and then backlog it all in dinner. If you spread it out, it's going to help with recovery and muscle maintenance. Okay. Some of the concepts I'm talking about here are a little bit shifty and a little bit tricky. So if you need clarification, I'm just double checking the comments here. Okay. That being said, where did we go? I left off. There's 2 of you live with me, so this is great. Okay. Basically, what I want to get at is a couple very simple concepts after a lot of like hooga booga sciencey talk. So basically, I want you guys to aim for a magic rule of like 25 to 35 grams of protein. It doesn't feel too much as maybe 40, 45 grams, and it's a little bit more sustainable, especially if spread out over 4 or 5 meals. Okay. Why? The goal is to help your recovery, but not just muscular recovery. Remember, this is cellular repair. So when you have higher protein synthesis, you actually help your tendons, your joints, your metabolic rate, you build muscle better. Like there's no downside to it. There's only benefits, really. So if our target is, oriented for recovery, the ideal amount is going to be at least 120 grams of protein for most of you. Okay. Some more, some a little less. I want you to focus on the good things. So lean meats, fish, eggs, dairy if you can handle it, legumes, tofu, soy, tempeh, nuts, seeds. And if you can emphasize mixing animal and plant proteins, it's going to give you the most amino acid completeness, which is going to give you the best bang for your buck. Ideally, that anabolic window has been debunked within that 30 minutes. You have to have this. But what you can try to do is within an hour to 2 hours, try to have 20 to 30 grams of protein, okay? Mixed with some carbs to help us restore those good energy levels, glycogen, and support repair. We also don't want to neglect carbs and fats. Remember, recovery is never just one thing. It is, yes, heavily based in protein, but carbs restore energy and fats reduce inflammation, especially things in like omega-3s. So walnuts, fish, colorful vegetables, etc. When we have good vitamin D, magnesium, zinc, and iron, recovery works better when those are in good storage. Okay, so you can look at those supplements. And of course, we can't recover if we don't rest. So we got to lay the bricks for recovery. And the roof is built whenever we have a good sleep, manage our stress, and include movement and mobility. Okay? And even if you think you're just eating great and you're not adding in the movement and the other things, you are going to underperform. Okay? So that being said, let's talk about feeling amazing in our performance aspect. When I talk about performance, that means more energy. That means better workouts. That means functional fitness. That means not being cranky over small things, because I don't know about you guys, but I get hangry. So this was a little bit longer of a chat because I wanted to hit these 3 topics and really flesh this out to set the standard for moving forward in certain talks, okay? Now, that being said, there's a couple golden nuggets I want you to take away here. Even for non-elite people, anybody who's like 30 plus, performance nutrition will still apply with basic principles. You need to fuel your body, to move it, and to recover it. So the focus shifts to functional strength, mobility, and metabolic health. Why do you think most of you are reverse diets? I'm helping your metabolic rates, okay? Diet quality does matter for performance and recovery. And one review of athletes, it was for athletes, but it still applies to us here. It reported that a suboptimal diet actually posed risks to health and performance and increased injury. So why does that matter? If diet quality is suboptimal, meaning not ideal, even in athletes and non-athletes, we are at greater risk of injury and health issues. So we want to, emphasize good quality nutrition with all of what we're doing. The same protein recommendations for recovery hold true for performance. Younger athletes usually require less than older people. I know it's a pain in the ass, but it's the truth. You know, we ideally want to be hitting a little bit more when we're a little bit older. I'm not going to give you the ratios because it's unique to each of you. So, why does this matter? It links performance, aka how we perform in the gym or at home with training, with elevated protein needs in especially middle age. What do I mean by that? Middle age is technically in your 50s, but this applies 30 onwards. Why? 30 onwards, we start getting something called sarcopenia. Sarcopenia is age-related muscle loss. You will lose a certain percentage of muscle per decade if you do not train. Okay? Training will help stave that off and help keep you metabolically and musculoskeletally healthy. Okay? Remember that performance nutrition isn't just a sports diet, but we want to tailor it for our age. Okay? Carbs and energy adequacy matter. So, for example, people who are not active and eat crappy, basically, maintaining both behaviors at a higher level over time, actually had a higher risk of mortality, meaning dying, by almost a quarter, like 22%. So, yes, it was a mortality study that I'm referencing here, but it reinforces the synergy of staying active, and a good diet over time boosts outcomes of a good quality life, an injury-reduced life, and disease-free life as long as possible. Okay? So for us to have really good performance, we want to talk about pre-workout meals, something like a light snack 1 to 2 hours before an activity. So it could be like eggs and toast, banana and yogurt, oats and berries. And the focus here is always on moderate carb and a good source of protein. Post-workout, we want to aim for about 20 to 30 grams of protein and like 30 to 40 grams of carbs. Ideally, within an hour, but it can be a little bit longer, no problem. Again, for daily protein targets, most of you that are tracking macros know what that is. Those who are on a meal plan, it's been calculated for you, okay? We also want to focus on whole grains as much as possible and avoiding refined sugars and high processed carbs. Why? Because they give us sustained energy and support our metabolism. Okay. Healthy fats and micronutrients. Remember, if we're doing resistance training, interval training, anything of the sort, we want to include oily fish, nuts and seeds, olive oil, and we also want to make sure that we're taking vitamin D and magnesium, B vitamins, and iron. Okay. Anybody in this kind of category may have a reduced thirst sensitivity. So those of you who are perimenopausal, a lot of you guys come to me and you're like, I don't know how I'm supposed to drink so much. Why is that? You have a reduced thirst sensitivity. So we want to make sure that you are taking adequate liquid before, during, and after exercise. Okay, so for example, the water bottle in the back is 750 milliliters. Okay, that guy, I will have 2 of those in a training session. Easily in a training session, 45 minutes. Just squeeze it back, pound it back. Why? Because I know I'm going to get the most amount of water, and that's the time I need it most. And I'm also home or in a gym, so a bathroom's nearby. So all of this to say, we want to integrate it all into our life. Training, nutrition, rest, recovery, and mobility. What does that give us? Long-term performance. High quality life, late into life, okay? If one part is missing, aka like poor sleep, just performance nutrition is not going to be able to fully get us out of it, okay? So all of this to say, we want to focus on a couple things overall here. Giving you a holistic framework using these 3 particular pillars, longevity, recovery, and performance, is going to show you how nutrition supports literally everything from living longer to feeling better to moving better to recovering faster. We want to take a balanced macro strategy. For longevity, focus a little bit more plant heavy, whole food carbs, healthy fats, moderate protein. For recovery, we boost protein quantity and quality and ensure carbs and fats are there for repair. For performance, we will do a similar one to recovery, but include pre and post workout fuel and ensure carb adequacy. We want to focus on patterns, not minute, stressy details. What do I mean by that? You don't need flawless execution. We just want sustainable, better habits over time. And remember, nutrition is only one piece of the pie. Okay, it works with exercise, it works with sleep, it works with stress management, and it works well with our mobility. None of them are isolated, all of them amplify each other. Now, remember that this is custom coaching, right? So all of you are going to have a little bit different of what I suggest for you. However, the guideline is similar. If you have very slow recovery, you need to tell me. Okay? The older we get, the less muscle mass and more anabolic repair resistance we get. The more life stress, same thing. So we got to remember having a good amount of protein, having a little bit longer for recovery, and prioritizing high quality diets where we can. And remember that if you think of your body as a high performance machine in midlife, you're not going to redo the engine. You're giving it premium fuel, regular servicing, aka recovery, and quality parts, nutrients, and good driving habits, movement and rest. Last but not least, and this is the most important one, this is an investment into yourself, which is why it is probably the most important undertaking you'll ever do. For some reason, when shit hits the fan, we all choose to let our health go by the wayside. It's the first thing that goes. And yet we all know that this is the investment and the biggest piece that will have the highest return on investment over time that we can possibly give ourselves. So, you're more than just fitting into your old clothes. You're more than just losing 10 pounds. You're investing into your vitality. You're investing into your mobility, ability to bend over, go on the floor, chase your grandchildren. You're investing into mental sharpness and quality of life. So everything we've talked about here is evidence to back it all up. And if you guys have questions or concerns, hit me up. I do pay attention to the comments. This is a little bit lengthier of a chat than we normally do, but I hope you got some value out of it. And if you did, please let me know your number one takeaway here. I look forward to hearing back from you guys, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.